all like technical now.
I'm not. I just don't want to end up like the Golden Globes last night. That's terrible.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have it in. Get some more. Just get some more.
Why, hello, everyone out there in Whiskey Land. Welcome to my Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. Tonight, we have a very special show for you. It's our Craft Whiskey Awards for 2023. Now, on this, each of us have our own list because some of us have had whiskeys, the other ones have not, and that's just not fair to include them. So it also gives us a couple more to get you to go out and try. So thank you for stopping in this evening, everyone in the chat. We really appreciate it. And also, as we're going through the list, if the people in the chat want to tell us what were some of the best in the category we're going over as we're going through that you guys had this year, once again, it's good for everyone to know and kind of points us in another direction. So, Mike, Mitch, how are you guys doing today?
Said your name first, Mike.
Damn it, Mitch. Doing all right. Just trying to stay warm and keep the vehicles covered so we could traverse back out into whatever we have tomorrow morning.
That is fair. And Mitch, yourself?
Doing fine. Chilly. I ordered food in tonight because I was feeling lazy. So
That's fair. Well, I gotta get your list ready. So
What'd you order?
Wingstop.
fair.
Okay.
Fair.
It's all right. I made chicken fettuccine Alfredo.
I had ravioli from yesterday. I think you do anyway.
There's no winning.
There's no winning. There's no winning with that many carbs. No. But I just want to thank everyone. Like I said, Morgan and Emily and Renita, I see you out in the chat. Thank you for stopping in this evening. Before we go any further, Mike, do you want to tell everyone about the Bar Cart Co-op?
I would love to tell everyone about the Bar Cart Co-op. The Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who create content for the whiskey and other distilled spirits public. The Bar Cart Co-op YouTube and Facebook pages have information about upcoming and past special shows, which happen about every quarter. There have been blind tastings, distiller panels, discussions of special collaborations, unique stills, and usage of unique grains. The Bar Cart Co-op has educational and fun episodes for your enjoyment. The oldest show in the stable is Distillers Talk, which is hosted by Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. It is a conversation with people from distilleries and distillery adjacent that gets into the weeds with their interviews. New episodes arrive at the end of the work week. And if that show is not nerdy enough for you, check out One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, where our friend Alan Bishop answers any questions about distilling and often puts them to the test. And it could be equipment, entire mash bills, individual grains, or just methodology. New episodes come out randomly, so subscribe to that one. Also have Bourbon Turntable, where they mix the love of music with the love of whiskey. Kevin and Drew have a conversation with musicians, writers, distillery folks, and common folks like us about music and whiskey. There have been many two-part interviews, including one very recent one with Miss Nancy Fraley and the bass players from Sweet Lady and Mojo Thunder, along with Alan Bishop. And it was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And speaking of them, coming up this Wednesday is their 2023 year in review live. I don't know why it should say live, baby, live. If they're really going to go to the music thing, but yeah, check that out. This Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. I believe it's 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. God's time.
They always go by Eastern.
Yeah, they're kind of weird. All right, and then also we have If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, which is a show about the spirits and the paranormal among us, as well as the unexplained and the spiritual. Subscribe on Spotify to get the 3 previous seasons and the 4th season, which is going on right now. And last, but certainly not least, we have Mr. David Levine with Whiskey in My Ring. They just did, or he started his 2023 awards. I think they're a little more than what he put out just recently that I saw, but please check it out. David does a really good job with his normal reviews as far as his year-end stuff. It's very good. Check him out. David likes to interview guests and really get into the weeds with them, and does a really good job with his reviews of individual whiskeys.
Mm-hmm. He focuses on some stuff that we won't, which is great, or at least I know I haven't.
David does things that we won't. I'll add that to the. David does all the things that we won't. Dirty Dave. I'm gonna add that right now.
Oh, that's okay.
And immediately drops out of the bar cart.
Gonna get a message. What the hell, guys?
Yeah, no. How about not? How about no? All right. So, which category do we want to start with? We have top like craft specialty. We have rye, bourbon, single malt, distillery of the year. We have all sorts of stuff here. Which one do you guys want to start with?
I have a question, but before we do that, because we did talk about, I don't think we all necessarily went by the exact same rules on things, but how you considered things. And that might be something obvious. I mean, I'll bring it up when I talk about like bourbons and stuff, but as far as like the specialty, it's like obviously it's everything but bourbon, rye, and single malt, just because. But as far as some of the other ones, because there's the thing with, we had a conversation about finished, before we did finished as a category, but then it's like, well, you do finish as a category, stuff like that.
Then a finished opens it up to all three of the categories because it's a finished whiskey then, and then creates.
Except single malted is more or less. I'll ask the sommelier and bourbon steward. It is kind of assumed that single malts around the world, there's some finishing at some point, or it is the norm.
Yes.
Okay. So.
I get it. I'm just saying we discussed that, but yeah. So kind of pulled the finished one out for this year, simplified it a little bit.
Yeah.
So. Okay, then you want to start with specialty?
Sure.
Why not?
I don't know if I believe you, but I think you should be getting a little more excited because this is one that was all over the place for me.
Yes, it was difficult. It was difficult
because, and I'm going to mention it. It's going to be maybe a couple more names than I do in the other categories because certain things kind of popped up in a category that didn't win, but maybe if I had more of an expanded range in some of the other stuff, it might have warranted a whole category, but does not. I'll go first on this one because everyone's usually a little iffy. So I'll start on this. I'll start with some of the things that were on my list for things that were jumped out and were interesting this year. In the specialty category. First off was Toledo Spirits, the Dunder Rum that I got to taste from Mitch. That for me was really unique, really fun. Something you don't always taste from an American company or done properly is another great way to phrase that. So that and a couple other things from them, but that one in particular is one that popped out in my mind going backwards this year. The Golden Beaver Soju for me, knowing what it was and the quality it was, I really enjoyed it. And knowing that that was the first American style of it, kind of going up against Asian markets, hopefully shortly. I really enjoyed that as a specialty release. I thought that really stood out well this year. Also, all of Edelbrand's products. I was going to say pretty much most of that entire lineup I was very impressed by the different brandies and even some of the beer ones, because I'm not always a beer fan. So most of that entire lineup was very impressive. You know, just it's a clean version of what you're getting compared to other people. So I really enjoyed those. But my winner for the category of the year and specialty for me was St. George Spirits Spiced Pear Liqueur, because that was my Christmas in a bottle this year. There's usually something that kind of jumps out throughout the year that's like, I could sit down with this around the holiday season and it fits perfect. And that bottle was fantastic. Now that you could drink it more than just that time, but fits the whole like winter season for me. It was fantastic. So that was my list for craft specialty. I will yield the floor to someone else right now.
Mitch, go ahead.
So similarly to Pat, Edelbrand, especially their brandies, were absolutely fantastic. I loved everything they sent for that tasting. And I have to look at my notes. The cantaloupe liqueur, because it was the first time I ever got to try it at Distill America. It was fantastic, and I don't even like cantaloupe, so that was rather impressive. So it's not really a spirit, but the Wallersheim canned cocktails. Oh. Holy crap! I did not realize that ready-to-drink cocktails could taste that good. Mm-hmm. And let's see here. I tried to limit it to how many honorable mentions I did, but I will say that they released new editions of that Dunder Rum at 6 months, 1 year, and 2 years old, aged in their bourbon barrels. So those will be heading your way after I remember and get a box and bubble wrap and that's some nice sample bottles. So
there's a lot of steps there, Mitch.
A lot of steps. I forget them all the time. So, my personal winner for distilled spirit specialty was Palindrome from Spirits of French Lick. I'd never had a peated apple brandy before. I don't think I'll ever have one again, other than from Spirits of French Lick. But I love peated whiskey. I found out I loved apple brandy like 2 years ago, and oh my goodness, is that one of the best things I've ever had. I tried to keep it away from single barrels, and I don't remember if Palindrome's a single barrel, so I included it as my winner on the off chance that it's not. But I can't find my open one of that. So instead, I'm sipping on Edelbrand right now, and it's not a consolation prize. It is so good. It's just quite literally the polar opposite of Spirits of Palindrome.
Oh yeah, I could see how that's accurate between those two. That should have been on my list as well too. But very nice list.
No,
Mikey.
Kevin.
Yeah.
That's this week.
That's
next
your limited release.
Next week.
Yeah. So
but it's not single barrel. That's less.
The Palindrome is, I think, actually.
Is it? God dang it!
I think it is.
Because it wasn't a tequila barrel.
Yeah.
See, so I'm just
Isla barrel. Smoked
barrel.
out. It's an Isla barrel. Yeah. That's a good question if it truly is single barrel or not, but I think it is. And yeah, like you guys mentioned a lot of the ones that I have for honorable mentions, but as far as specialty, which I also included a Kohn whiskey in there, that MB Roland single barrel pick from Westport Whiskey. Wow, that was so stinking good. That was really good. Palindrome also on there, but I put it down as a single barrel on there. Other spirits, which I never would have had. And honestly, I will say the Distill America experience this year really threw a lot of them on my lap, because something I never would have ever in my mind would have saw on a shelf and said, I'm going to buy that and try it. The Blue Ice Huckleberry Vodka.
Oh,
that was just like, what the what? And that was really great. You mentioned Golden Beaver, Pat. Yeah, the Biba Soju and the Richardson Springs Grappa. Those were both. Those are both great, you know, in their own. To make sure I lose my spot. But my overall one from the time that I had it to what I kept going back to, and every time was like, oh, yeah. And it wasn't, I didn't think it was a winter thing, but it was, as you can tell by this was, I think that my second bottle of it, this St. George Spice Pear Liqueur. I found it to be an all year round enjoyment because although it's spiced pear, it tastes a lot like warm apple pie. Mm-hmm. And it was during the summer. I had it a couple times where it's just like, hey, it's summer. Hey, you know what they say? Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet. So let's have let's have a little bit of apple pie in a glass and watch the game, even though it says spiced pear liqueur. That I still kept going back to that one over and over again. That was that was, it was really hard to beat. Edelbrand was kind of one of those things where there were so many in there that it was really hard to pick one that came out, because there's the Vinars, the Para, the Miela, the Vin, the 116 pills, the 719 IPA, and my favorite was the 625 Russian Imperial Stout. I love that and love the chocolatiness of that stuff, but it was really, I mean, there's so many in that category. It's like, boom, we got hit with everything at one time. And it was really, really hard to pick that one. So that gets a very high honorable mention for me. But St. George, from the time I had it and then every time afterwards, just like, wow. it kept coming back, and now I can get it near me. So I'm happy.
Hit that mule.
So I will say I had the spiced pear liqueur before, so I did not include it in my list this year because I had it
That's fair.
A couple of years ago. So it is delicious, but I tried to limit it to things I had this year or
same here,
close enough to this year that I can't remember if it was this year or late last year.
I got a couple like that as well too, so that makes sense. Nothing wrong with that. All right, so we're past that one now. I don't know. This is where it gets a little iffy. I was gonna say, do you want to do bourbon or rye? I'll tell everyone out there right now. Rye was one of the most difficult categories for me.
I think we should do rye.
You want to do rye?
Let's do rye.
The top craft rye of the year. Or, well, ones we had, because there's one on my list that is not, and sorry, that's just respect to the whole game of everything out there. Whatever was the best is the best. I can't be playing favorites, you know.
Yes.
would be that. So I went first last time. Someone else go first this time.
Why don't you go, Mitch? I'll go right. I'll go first next.
Sounds like a plan. So rye was a hard category for me because I tried to not do single barrels and blew that on palindrome, and also tried not to do finished ryes. And every single time I thought of like, oh my God, that was fantastic. It was finished or a single barrel. So the I Would Rye from You from Dancing Goat was absolutely fantastic. It's probably my girlfriend's favorite rye of the year, and it is darn up there. We went to MB Roland and did a tour, and we got to thief our own rye from there, and is it absolutely fantastic. Their rye, they use white corn, pot stilled. I think it was 5 or 6 years old. Cask strength.
White corn?
White corn?
It's
a new thing. It's a new thing. It's a new thing.
They've already had it aged. That's crazy.
Yeah, they must have got it from somewhere, like they're still, but whatever. the Wollersheim yeast project, I think, was 3 single barrels, so I didn't include them. I think my favorite was number 2. I was drinking a little bit that day, so it's kind of fuzzy. But all of those were absolutely fantastic. But I couldn't let any of them win because they were all single barrels or finished. So I actually chose something that I had completely forgotten about because I didn't buy a bottle of it or I hadn't bought a bottle of it, which is Wilderness Trail Rye. I had it when it came out years and years ago and was like, okay, cool. And then had it again at Bourbon on the Banks and was like, why do I not own a bottle of this? Like, I feel dumb because it's at a great price point. It's available pretty much everywhere, and it's great. That being said, when I realized I was, trying to do this, I had a faint memory because once again, I was drinking of loving the rye from Southern Distilling in North Carolina. I got to try at Distill America, and I can't remember enough about it, unfortunately, because all I remember was, oh my gosh, this is really good. So another honorable mention. I should probably take better notes and drink less.
No, enjoy yourself.
No.
The whole thing. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Nice. So what was the winner?
Sorry. The winner was just Wilderness Trail.
Okay. Yeah.
Rye, not single barrel or anything. Just their rye is really solid.
Mm-hmm.
No arguments with that. Mike, your thoughts on it?
Oh, we have a
Oh,
palindrome.
yeah. Well, yeah.
So
Jesus.
I'm gonna
damn
claim
it.
ignorance.
Yeah. I have an answer and it's still not okay.
Yeah. That's right. All right. So I'll go with rye. And like Mitch, for all my categories, all of my normal categories, bourbon, rye, single malt, trying not to pick a single barrel or a pick, because to me it's kind of like having prime Michael Jordan play in a 3-on-3 pickup basketball game, on your team. It's stacked, okay, because this is a perfectly select picked barrel, and which is not to say that it's not good. It's just that isn't great, but it's just not fair to the standard release. So problem what I have with rye were most of my great ryes, which they're part of my honorable mentions here. I have a Tattersall single barrel rye, Old Padron single barrel rye, and both of those are they're both kind of like Stag Junior of rye. they shake you around and slap you, and you have to call it mistress and all kinds of great stuff, and they're just fantastic. But because they're single barrels, no. Buzzard's Roost cigar rye is great, but it's finished. That was another thing. If it's finished, so I was trying to pick things that weren't finished, and that was really hard to do that. Golden Beaver Chico Creek rye, that the first rye that Chris and Nils distilled together, really damn good rye, is a single barrel. That made it very hard to do that. The Great Northern Unseen Hand, single barrel, and it was a great rye. The I Would Rye For You is also on my list. The Buzzard's Roost Char 1 rye, really, really enjoyed that one quite a bit. But the one that stuck out to me, and if you tell me now it's a single barrel, it's going to ruin everything for me. But I had it towards the end of Distill America. Have wanted to get one forever. Someday I will get it, but the Dirty Helen barrel strength rye from Great Lakes. I had that, and that was tasting it had it in the beginning, but then having it at the end, and after having everything, being able to go, whoa, that was, to me, that was a great mark. And one of my other honorable mentions, which I actually have poured here, was a rye that was gifted to me, and I was like, oh great, something I'll put in cocktails. Nothing gets, but I didn't really think much of it. I finally opened it and gave it a shot. And I have to say, for a drinker, it's the 3-Chord Amplify Rye, which is just a blended rye. It's a nice rye you don't have to think about. I just give it an honorable mention as a nice rye. It won't stand up against anything I've mentioned on my list, but I did have a little pour of it here just because it's a really nice sipping rye. So something that's, I imagine it's in the $30-ish range. I would say look it up. It's got some really nice notes to it and doesn't have any of the rye notes that you hate, Patrick.
Very good. That's always nice. I appreciate that, though I can tolerate them from time to time.
Like children.
Here, I'll help to play for a bit. I'm going to pour another little bit here. My glass is getting a little empty there. So
I will say, Richard in the comments mentioned the Leopold and Dickel. So I actually had a chance to AB the Leopold and the Dickel Leopold blend. Fascinating.
Oh,
also fantastic. Yeah. I tried to not choose the Dickel Leopold blend because I don't think Dickel is what you would call small, and Leopold Brothers I definitely had last year, so it was like, okay, I gotta not choose this one.
Yeah, until we get like a new one, then it can't be like next year, maybe the 8-year. Get a taste of that.
Yeah,
bring it back in the pool. No, Emily's bottle killing things. Beautiful.
She's fighting off the coronavirus.
Oh, that is terrible. We hope you heal quick then. I'm sick of that. Excuse me. All right, I have a couple of the ones on my list. Mitch, you mentioned I Would Rye for You. I was going to say that was on my list. There was one other one that wasn't mentioned by everyone else that I have on mine was J. Henry's Rye. It was the first batch one year. And I didn't have it till later on in the year because I missed that part of the tent. It was just life, and it was really busy there at the beginning of Distill America. So that was one I had later on that, as for a rye, it has a neat herbal note that does not attack you. That's one of my, it has a nice soft herbal note that blends in with stuff. I found it really neat because it wasn't as much peppery spice kind of way a lot of people go with the rye. And I really liked it where it was, but I'm really intrigued to go where it goes in a couple of years because of where it is in the barrel and how that might sweeten it and also maybe deepen the flavors that are in there right now. I mean, it was just different. That was my biggest thing with the ryes is everything I had was just not very similar in flavor. Like everything I was like, ooh, that was really different this way. That was really different this way. This had something different. So they were on my list. But yeah, the one that after sitting down around with a couple that I still had here, I got a chance to try David's Jack Daniel's single barrel rye pick that he did. And for it rung for like a classic rye notes. I really, really liked it when I sat down trying to think what is a rye. And also give kudos, and I also say Jack Daniel's single barrel or the higher end selections. I know their single barrel is probably how many other barrels in it and stuff at some points, or just their rye in general if they do a higher proof one. But they are underrated for what comes out for them in those picks. The rye well priced for what it is typically. So But I think, like you might mention, Mike, when you had it a while ago, well under the 66% it comes in at.
Like
that,
20 points under.
Yeah, for that it drinks like candy to that aspect. But that was the one after sitting down with a lot of them that just, I don't know, hit true that night. Which brings me to one other point about tasting when you're doing these. It's neat to have the memory, but like some people were criticizing Fred for having, 100 whiskeys in a night and trying to be able to discern it. Sometimes when you sit down with 5, to be frankly honest, it becomes an issue. Because one will lead into another or trail off, and then maybe you feel like you have to come back and try them in a different order another time just to see if you had something off happen along the way or anything like that. So I will say that evening, that's the one that jumped on the top for me this evening when I was thinking about ryes. So sorry it's a single barrel, everyone, but I would recommend trying Jack Daniel's rye at barrel proof, but also, like I said, some of the other ones we mentioned this evening are fantastic. Well, from Wisconsin, I'm happy because you had I Would Rye for You from Dancing Goat, Jay Henry's rye that I like, Tattersalls that Mike said, where it fucking grabs you and shakes you a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It slaps you around real nice.
I'm very happy about the wide variety of ryes that are coming out of Wisconsin. So I'm pleased by that. So,
I think Tattersall's Minnesota, but still.
is it right
As far as Iowans are concerned, it's the same place.
The northern Midwest, right?
But one I do want to try this year coming out that I heard who had, was it Paul Nims had it. He had some far north where he had some of the new varietals that came out.
Yeah.
I want in. 100% I want in. I was going to say there are ones that just got done, and he also brought over a new varietal that grows, I think it was in Finland. Well, along the line, probably where he is, if you look at it, for growth, I'm like, it would make sense to see how it does. I'm like, but yeah, I want to kind of step back there because it sounded like the projects he was continuing to do are expanding, and I want to try some of those new flavors.
Yes.
So, all right, excellent. I'm gonna have a sip here. Everyone have a sip, damn it.
We've had sips. Should we do bourbon?
Bourbon? Yeah, I guess we can do bourbon.
Okay.
Craft bourbon of the year. All right, and there's one in here that the way I did things, I was going to say, whoever took whiskey of the year for me did not take another category just to make room. So there is one in here that was elevated kind of past the category. I'm just going to make that statement now. So go ahead, Mike. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. So yeah, bourbons, again, I try not to pick, or I did not pick single barrels, and not finished. And then there's a couple of them, which we had our own conversation. It was like, okay, what's finished? Do we go by, if it says finished on the label or not? Or do we go by TTB? Because, when has the government ever steered us wrong? But also, or do we just I think we just decided on anything other than the original barrel. It's okay. So that eliminates some stuff, but honorable mentions that have to get out because their single barrels are finished. The ASW Fiddler Toasted Wheated, because they said it's finished in a toasted barrel. That is, ASW is making some really good whiskey, and that whiskey is so good. MB Roland Dark Fired single barrels. The Peerless High Rye, that was really good, and I think that's the best release that I've had from Peerless that was not just a single barrel pick. That was really, really good. The locally here at Holiday Soft Red Wheat, I really dig that one a lot. I really like the single barrel of it, but that also eliminates that. The Spirits of French Lick Hindostan, this is a single barrel pick, the one that I've got, so I could not do, but high honorable mentions for that. Glen's Creek OCD 5 Premium, which is a single barrel. The Golden Beaver, number 59 of one of 72 bottles at Single Barrel Bourbon. That was Chris's 4-grain with rye. And that one, Single Barrel. Another Spirits of French Lick, the Spirits of French Lick Morning Glory finished in stout barrels. Oh my God, it's delicious. It's a single barrel. A Lone Elm Wheated, single barrel. Iron Root Apotheosis, finished. Damn it, people. There are so many of them that were single barrels finished, but I've also been getting a lot of single barrel stuff because I just have, and this stuff's really good. But my number one, and not all of those were single barrel or finished, but my number one bourbon that I had was one I almost didn't buy it. I tried it, didn't know that I tried it, and then I almost didn't buy it. And then when I went to leave, it was just like, all right, what do you really think of this one? And the place where I was at, the guy that was behind the counter happened to be a ginger, and he says, this has been my favorite. And then the distiller was there, also happened to be a ginger. The distiller says, yeah, it's been my favorite in a while. So my bourbon of the year, which I have in my Iron Root I'm a Whore glass, is the Iron Root Harbinger 23A. It is. I went back on this one, and that Harbinger's always great. Iron Root, they do great stuff. But the thing that got me on it was there's just this Iron Root always has there's a citrus and then maple, not maple syrup, but just not necessarily maple, but kind of syrupy, kind of notes to it where it's just kind of sweet that I get. But the thing that got me was there's a creaminess to this one that I haven't gotten off Harbinger in a while. And I just really dig it. For just straight up bourbon, good Lord. It just kicks ass.
Outstanding. I'm jealous, but I didn't have enough of their stuff this year, so that's my own fault. Orange marmalade. Ooh, nice.
That's pretty good.
Very, very nice. All right, so let's see here. For my bourbon of the year, you did mention quite a few in your honorary mentions there.
It was so hard. I mean, I had so many bourbons on my list before, and then I went back through them like single barrel finished. It's like, damn it. I got to stick to my rules on this one. So anyway.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, I had some other things that you're in there. I had one of Allen's that I hadn't had before that was in there, besides the Henderson as well. There was a MB Rolling Dark Fire that I just really, really liked when I had it this year. This one quietly one of my favorite quiet, I don't know, pleasures, guilty pleasures. That was something that stood out this year. You mentioned a Dirty Helen rye you had. I had a Great Lakes Dirty Helen, but it's their bourbon. And it was a 4-year-old, not a 2-year-old, because most of the releases they had are 2. This was a 4-year-old release, a cast strength. You guys will be getting some, and so will Joe Lee, the winner of a wonderful football league. Congratulations to you. It's classic bourbon, just bumped vanilla, ridiculous carbon. It's just big, bold, everything like that. It was right up there, but the one for me that kind of snuck its way out was the Bluegrass Toasted Barrel. It was rather than being as overwhelming, it was a little more subtle. A lot of the honey toasted, like a honeycomb toasted flavor to it, came through quite a bit on it. It was really nice. That's the one I went with, the Westport Whiskey and Wine one. So yes, some of mine are single barrels, but it tosses you in a direction of when you see something, it's worth getting, because not everything I would get has to be a single barrel. The Dark Fired, I have a hard time, to be honest with you. I don't want to say I have a hard time discerning cast strength from normal, but it's not a big jump for me. I still get a lot of the same notes and everything in them. So some of them aren't, this gigantic wave of flavor change that can happen. But so yeah, I went with the bluegrass one. Was my bourbon of the year.
Yeah. So I had a similar problem to Mike. So many of my favorite bourbons were single barrels, or they're bottles that I'm nursing because I love them. Because my original thought was Iron Root, and then I realized just about every Iron Root I can buy in Kentucky is finished because it's the Saints Alley releases. So that ruled all of those out. And then I was like, ooh, the Tri-Barrel blend. But I got that 2 years ago. So I was like, well, that rules that one out. So I tried to go back through and just pick the ones that left kind of the most interesting memory.
I love how hard that looked just even now.
I'm sorry?
It looks stressful for you even now dealing with the situation.
Dude, it really was, because it was one of those things, like I was talking to Morgan with it about both the ryes and the bourbons, and we were both like, nope, that's a single barrel. Nope, that's finished. How about that? Nope, I had that, we had that last year, and it was just like, oh my God. So honorable mentions go to the Bluegrass Toasted Westport Whiskey and Wine Single Barrel, because I've been talking about that forever, and it is delicious. From Bourbon on the Banks, McBrayer, or not McBrayer. Oh my God.
No, I think that's right.
What was it? McBrayer? Okay, maybe. Yeah, not McTavish. Right, I was confusing it with McTavish. McBrayer. It's an interesting bourbon. They use heirloom corn. I don't remember if it's Johnny Red or Bloody Butcher, but they made their cuts right, so it's absolutely delicious. And then Lord knows all the 11,000 amazing bourbons, especially the ones from Wood Hat that I got to try that made me want to buy a single barrel. So I'm specifically not going to St. Louis for a little bit so I can save up some money. But I got to try a really interesting bourbon that I apparently bought 2 or 3 years ago. I had a buddy get it for me in Colorado, and I was like, all right, next time we see each other, if I go out there, give it to me. If you come down here, give it to me. And he brought it, and I forgot. But it is Bourbon by Snitching Lady Distillery in Colorado. The story is he was not entirely legally distilling, and some lady snitched. So he decided it was time to go legal. And he went and found a picture of the lady that was apparently in the newspaper. So he got a hold of the photographer, bought the rights to her photo, created a likeness of it, put it on her barrel, or put it on his bottles, and then that's what he's been going with ever since. And I'm pretty sure this is called Bourbon because that's how she said it on the phone when she snitched. But it's only 15 months old, but it is on a direct fired still, and there is something about that just, it's the flavors are amazing. Like the Maillard reaction creates all these lovely, wonderful flavors. And I haven't had a lot of direct fired spirits in my life, and I apparently really, really, really like them. And it's not a single barrel or finished, so it qualified. But if you are in Colorado, highly recommend grabbing it.
You're muted, Pat.
Yeah, I like the story. I was going to say
the
that
story also helps sell.
Story's fantastic. Right on the lady buys the rights. That's perfect. That's how you get back at somebody.
Right, really. Like, hey, stop doing that. You know what? I'm going to do it, and I'm going to put your face on it. There's nothing you can do about it.
Oh,
really? Oh, I did not know that.
What part of Colorado was it?
Fairplay, Colorado.
Ah, see, it's a great place for a snitch.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
I think so. No, all this snitching.
I
Get
do not know
someone-
what the lady's name is.
No, that's
Begins
all
with a
right.
B.
Begins with a B.
Maybe
Shine.
rhymes with my name. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I'm sure she was called that from time to time because of this.
She's probably going to
Well,
sue now.
I mean, whatever. She gave us my bourbon of the year. So
Can't argue. And in 15
No.
months, that's a fantastic.
Hard to argue with that.
It reminds me of that one Hatfield that happened a couple years ago that was like 6 or 8 months old. I was like, wow, for 6 or 8 months, shit, I could be on the list. Not anymore, though.
Don't be an age whore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, try not to be. Try not to be. All right. So we're still going down the list. Next up, it looks like we probably have single malts is
Yep.
our next place we're going to have to go. Craft single malt of the year. This, for me, was just fun. I thought I didn't. There was a part of me for like a second I think it didn't have enough malts, and then I realized how many really goddamn good ones I had.
Mhm.
I think this is an underrated American category just because everybody pushes bourbon and rye as like the American version of whiskey, and malt is still kind of seen as foreign. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, really, by that mainstream bulk buying, Bud Light swilling America sees it that way. But this is a fantastic category that is way underrated, where the flavors are bold and rich and can go in really different directions. I love this category, and I think there's some stuff going on here that's underrated on like the world kind of scale of things, which goes to show by Fred Minnick kind of moving up Santa Fe Spirits cask strength. Cole Keegan, the number, I think it was 12 this year, but that was fantastic when we had it a couple of years ago. So
that was going to be on my list if I had it this year.
it's one of those things. I was like, but I haven't had this year's version. I had like a year or two ago, but when I don't remember if it won for me. I'd have to go back. It was in a hell of a fight between that and one other thing for malt and whiskey of the year that year. So who wants to go with their list on this one?
Go ahead. You just start. Let's go around the horn.
All right, fine. All right, well, I'm going to keep mine a little concise on this one, just for time is what I was worried about. So Mike kind of screwed up the process by shipping in some late samples to the game that kind of threw up the end of this. Not too bad, but the introduction of the Single Cask Nation Virginia pick, Virginia Distillery pick, that's just velvet, man. Honey velvet, light pears, but the velvety quality on there, it's a neat ride, but landed in the honorable mention. Another one that did for me was the St. George Spirits Baller. I hadn't had it. I had heard a lot about it. Really nice. I know it's on the list. It didn't jump out to be the top from when I had it. Another one also that made the list for me was Northern Waters. They had kind of a special, they had like a special release series. So I know, shitty, but it did win, so you can't be mad at me. Is their Maltster's Reserve. This was a blend of chocolate and caramel malt. This tastes like a chocolate peanut butter sandwich with very thin bananas cut and slid between it. And then a little bit of like maybe toasted, like a toasted outside because it's got a little bit of a graham cracker edge to it. I really like it. I really like it. Thought it was good. But there was the one that I liked the most this year was a dry fly pick. It was from their O'Danger's Caledonian series. It was an 8-year-old. And it was actually Of course, single barrel pick, but too bad. I just being honest with you, they did do a proof down version of it as well too. But it was from Namath's in Appleton, and this has all the really great qualities of a malt you want. And what it brought in that some of the other ones didn't was, and I love in a malt, is different fruits. You know, it had a deep date thing on the nose, but when you get into it, it started pulling rich berries and a couple other things out of it. It was, like a mixed berry filling on top of like this sugar molasses cookie with light frosting, and yeah, and the finish with the oak on that, it just kept going. It sticks around for a long time. It was a really, 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 really good pick. And like I said, I tried the proof down version. Excellent, but that full amped up at barrel proof was just, I could drink that whenever. So then there was a couple other things from Dry Fly that kind of caught my attention this year too. But on this one, that's the best single malt I had this year. So Mitch, I think you're up next.
So single malts, I did not have nigh as many single malts as I had as everything else this year.
Yeah.
Just one of those weird things. So for me, Baller, it was also the first time I had that at Distill America. And I remember Fred and Adam talking about it on the show before I went up there. And they said that they thought Jeff's like hyping it up was the reason it was allocated that year. So I was like, I am definitely trying this. So I went and tried it. I enjoyed it. I call myself a little bit of like a sherry slut, so it wasn't quite, that sherry bomb single malt I was looking for. And speaking of not sherry bombs, Mike talked about Tire Fire enough that my amazing girlfriend went out and bought me that. And it is fantastic. It is exactly what the name says it is, and that is absolutely perfect. But that being said, this one, I broke the rules a little bit because I did have this towards the end of last year, but darn it, I love it. It's the Vistula from Toledo Spirits. So it is a single
favoritism.
Yep, absolutely. Not gonna lie, totally helps. I am not above bribes either, if you really want to get down to it. But right, finished in Pinot Noir cask, so it gets a little bit of those, lovely fruity notes. Got a hint of chocolate malt in there, so it's not overwhelming, but it still gives you that chocolate flavor. Also, might be dating a relative of one of the owners. Totally doesn't color my, appreciation of the whiskey. Well, that being said, my girlfriend weddled people on it at Distill America. So hopefully some more folks have appreciation of it and they can find it, that I'm not just talking out of my rear end. But holy crap, it's very well done for me.
I love it. I wasn't seeing that one come out of there, so I like that.
Apparently Morgan finds it repulsive.
So there are two things from that family that you love.
We'll say that. Maybe three, because that rum, holy crap.
Yeah, I was a fan of the rums from there. That's
so.
Of course,
that was the point.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of rums, I know Richard's out there, and we didn't mention it. Next Monday, come join us because they're going to be tasting through this lineup with him and James. So make sure you stop out because we're expanding the rum game here on My Whiskey Den.
I'm really excited.
I am, and they're reasonable too, which puts them at arm's length for a lot of people. Sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought it was
You're fine. You're fine.
Wonderful opportunity.
Fine. So I had the same problem with single malts, is that my list was not long for single malts. And then when I went through all the ones that I did, because I do actually write down my tasting notes of everything that I've gotten. I put dates on there and stuff. It's really for myself, but I went through everything on there in American single malts. The list was short, but also, damn it, had single barrels on it. 2 single barrels from Single Cask Nation, and one of them was the Virginia Distillery one, and that one is, oh shit, is it good? But it's a single barrel, so yeah, it better be really good. But damn, is it good? It is really, really good. Also have a Westland single barrel from them that is, with Scottish peat. Yeah, it's kind of good. But those are great. But American single malt, other ones that I had, the St. George Baller, finally got to try that, and that was great. I've been wanting to try St. George stuff. Could not get St. George anything around here for the longest time. Couldn't see it. Still haven't seen the single malt, but got to try the Baller. Really enjoyed the Baller. But back in the fall, got to try what is my single malt of the year. I got to try it. And then luckily I got sent home with a sample of it, and it is the Deerhammer Progeny 4. And the Deerhammer Progeny 4, which is, it's finished in Albarino, cider, and brandy casks. Total of 900 bottles, so not a single barrel. It is a 5-year. It's a collaboration with Carboy Winery, and it is just decadent fruit, and that chocolate malt from Deerhammer comes through. Holy balls. It is. And the thing is, it doesn't hit you in the face at all. I mean, it's got I think, what's the proof on it? 53%. So, but it's just like a lot of stuff that Lenny does at Deerhammer. It's just so well put together and blended. It's just these great flavors through there. And then that chocolate malt just comes. So it's like you're having filled dark chocolates. And it's really good, but it goes up and then just takes you straight across on a ride. That's just like, oh, I'm looking at all these things on either side of me. It was really great, and I do have that poured right here, and I am suckling this thing with what do you say, with extreme prejudice. You can get it at the distillery.
I heard other people who had that and absolutely loved it. So, and the Progeny series, I think we had like 2 years ago. One of the malts in that series was up for malt of the year even then, and because, like you said, it has some fantastic berry notes, and then it does have it has that rush of chocolate, but it's wrapped. It does feel like you're biting into a chocolate where it kind of layers out and melts together.
It is fruit-filled chocolate. It is so damn tasty.
So just jealous here. Just jealous. But
that's all right.
I only ever had one thing from Deerhammer, and it was great. So,
Deerhammer ships.
We may have to adjust that if you haven't had enough from Deerhammer.
Mitch is trying to buy a single barrel of bourbon from Wood Hat, so he's trying to buy less whiskey right now, so we can buy more whiskey.
He is, but what was Lenny doing that they're smoked corn?
So
yeah, I have like a hickory smoked bourbon or something like that.
The hickory smoked corn is stellar.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, if they were saying they're doing that again, and I'm like, yes, please, because for a corn whiskey, that would lead into it is a corn whiskey, but if we had a finished category, yes, that should be. Or not, that's in a smoked. So there's just, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to break things down. I want a smoked category next year.
Smoke show. So I'm sipping on I pour just a little bit of this Progeny again. Chocolate finish. I mean, it's just the chocolate's melting in your mouth. You're a fat kid. You snuck away from everybody. You're shoving the chocolates in your mouth. They're all over your lips. It's on your hands. You lick your fingers. It's chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. It's beautiful. I dig it.
Sounds good.
It's weird. I'm listening to you talk and I'm drinking something else, so it's throwing my whole brain off a little bit.
Most people don't listen when I talk.
Well, yeah. Someone's got it. That's what I'm here for.
We're not just whiskey reviewers. We support each other.
We probably all need it.
We're also Malort holes. So we'll tell you what.
Hey, I haven't gone down the Malort hole in a while.
That's now part of my vocabulary, just FYI. Like my dog is a Malort hole. Like whenever my girlfriend and I are talking about him, it's like, guess what the Malort hole did? About half an hour ago that he was snoring so loud she had to turn the volume up to listen to us.
So you just blatantly call him a Malort hole, just like that.
No hashtag.
No
Just
hashtag,
the
just
Malort
Malort
hole.
hole.
Oh yeah, no, just Malort hole.
MH if you're in a hurry.
You really have to savor it. You can't shorten it. It's
Just like the drink itself.
Yeah. The finish is long.
All right. We got two left. Oh my God, we're already at an hour. Holy cow. I wouldn't have thought we were gonna be on that long. I thought we were gonna go fast, but it is what it is. We got two left. Not one's the whiskey of the year and one's distillery of the year. How about we do distillery of the year next?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I'm not going first on this one. I went first last time. Someone else gets to go.
Mitch.
So honorable mentions, of course, Alan at Spirits of French Lick. Pretty much everything he does is absolutely amazing. Iron Root, I don't think they've ever put anything out that was bad. But I don't know. How do I put this? They felt like the obvious choices, so I didn't choose them. I was introduced to Wollersheim and Edelbrand this year, and everything they made was also absolutely fantastic. Like Wollersheim, their single yeast experiment, their canned cocktail, their not their baseline brandy, but their like slightly bougier and more expensive brandy. Absolutely fantastic. Right. Edelbrand, like their apple brandy. Oh my God. Right. Like still, I'm upset that they don't distribute to Kentucky. Also Toledo Spirits. Totally not because I'm dating my girlfriend, but honestly, everything I've had from them, I've enjoyed. But I really did have to go with, it's my first award, so I'm going to have to go with the distiller I've been fanboying for forever, MB Roland. Honestly, like I had their Dark Fired years ago, and it opened my eyes to smoke and smoke in America. It opened my eyes to pot stills. It opened my eyes to heirloom grain and not just yellow dint. They changed the way I thought about American whiskey.
White corn.
We can keep saying that if you want to. But
White corn.
like as a distillery, they changed the way I thought about American whiskey years ago. I've never forgot that. Since then, I've had their brandy. It's fantastic. I had their hemped bourbon. It's a wild ride and fantastic.
I think you made me try that when I was there.
It's hemped bourbon. Like, what the hell are you going to compare it to? The only thing they've ever made that I didn't like was a couple of their flavored moonshines, and it's because I didn't like the flavor. Like, they had a mint julep moonshine. I don't like mint juleps. That says a lot, right? Like, when you're like, oh, yeah, this tastes like the thing I don't like. I don't like it. But everything else is delicious. So
you nailed it. Not for me.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be that guy, but it's like, well done. It's right. If you offer me broccoli, it's like, oh, this could be the best broccoli in the world.
I can see that, and they have a wide portfolio that they do a nice job on. You know, it's not like a 2 or 3 thing. The corn,
Corn
multiple
whiskey,
varieties of
Westport
corn.
whiskey and wine one. Oh my God!
And some of their moonshines I actually like as well too. Their blueberry moonshine I like quite a bit. And I'm not usually I don't know. Sometimes I'm moonshine person, but not like the flavored stuff. A lot of times you still get too much kind of sugar and stuff in it, and this did not have that, so I enjoyed that.
Plus, you can't forget, dark fired bourbon, dark fired single barrels, dark fired whiskey, dark fired white dog, dark fired rye. It's just 5 of my favorite things right there. Okay. Like, I wish I could fanboy less, but just all-time favorite distillery. So I had to pick them.
No, I understand. Like I said, it's a good choice. It's a solid choice across the board with what they're releasing. I understand that. Mike, what tickled your fancy this year? And Neil, good to see you. Thanks for stopping in.
I think we did for a couple of years. We did distillery and did distiller separately, and this year we got them together.
Yeah.
So my shout outs are going to be to distillers. Edelbrand they definitely get a shout out. Just the lineup was absolutely fantastic and all extremely well made. And that really goes to say to what's being done. I mean, so clean, very well made. Loved it. The Toledo Spirits, because I was new to it this year at Distill America, and everything that we tried from there, even after all the other things that we tried, was just, hey, this is really good. This isn't just some little place making some stuff. They're a place making some really good stuff, and it was a broad spectrum. It wasn't, oh, they have a good gin, or oh, they have a good this. Everything we tried from there was really good, and I was really surprised about that rum. It's crazy good. But Golden Beaver, because what Chris is doing with him getting his stuff out, his version of the 4 grain with rice, that single barrel rye, special shout out to him on that. To Alan for his things, most important. Well, I'll say most importantly for the Hindostan, which was his corn that he bred, that's in his whiskey, that is absolutely wonderful, and how he's done that. And there are more things of his that are coming out. The distillery, to be honest, I couldn't give it to them because they're weird ass marketing, whatever they're doing there. It's like, oh, 30 bottles, come and get it. Oh, hey, we're playing games with you. How about if you don't play games with people who all drive to go get stuff from you because you can't ship? Don't play games with people, okay? People want your stuff and they're trying to get it. It's not cute and it's not funny, and maybe quit, okay? That's just my little rant. I still like your products because of who's making your products, and I like what you guys are doing, but as a distillery, I think there's kind of some dumb decisions, and I don't think that you should be doing that. That kind of spoils it. But overall, my distillery overall is the one that was getting well-deserved awards, killing everything that they put out. The visitor experience is fantastic. And again, the other experiences, I went to French Lick, and it was not a normal tour. Chris gave me the red carpet treatment like crazy when I went to Golden Beaver. It was absolutely great. But overall, as a distillery, I will give it to Ironroot this year. All hail to Gingers.
Well deserved, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they've ever put anything out that wasn't amazing.
Yeah.
No, and honestly, everyone that I put on there, I don't think anyone. I mean, Toledo, I've got to try a handful. Everybody that I mentioned, everything that I had of theirs, I liked it. I mean, everything that I had of theirs, I thought was great. But I had to separate distillery overall versus distiller. So
the reason why we had a separation before.
There's a reason we had before, and I mean, and Chris, yeah, and Chris is. He's hitting. I mean, he was my distillery last year. and still it's still fantastic. But this year, give it to Iron Root.
No,
It's still hard because
It's
everyone
very
you
hard.
mentioned and for me, everyone I mentioned, I haven't had anything from them that I would
No.
I wouldn't even consider good. Everything has been great.
Yeah, and MB Roland, it's only just because I didn't think because everything I had of theirs was great, and they're so nice. They're so nice. It was a great interview with Mary Beth in the background. The interview was great, and then at Distill America, so nice, so pleasant. I would love to get down there sometime, and I feel bad that I didn't have them on my list, but it wasn't. It was just because I just an oversight, brain fart, whatever you want to call it. So
I tried to keep my list as small as I could, and even then, right, they get big.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you start thinking about it a little bit more. As like, who else had a really nice lineup of things, and that's that gets tough.
And that was the thing with Iron Root was the awards that they're nailing with it. There's a reason that they're winning it overall out. Their little distillery that they're churning a lot of stuff out, but there's a reason there's a reason they're winning awards. There's a reason that people are like, hey, when are we gonna get the rest of your stuff in our state? And it's just there's a they're gonna burst at some point. I mean, just because they're gonna there's too many people that want to get their stuff, and there's other people it'll come around there. But Iron Root, they got the hardware to back it up. Okay, not only that, you mentioned Saints Alley before, but the Saints Alley, the Apotheosis, that was, it was so good. But yeah, that new Harbinger release, there was the Solstice blends. It was like, good Lord, every single thing. And the brandy, the sleight of hand brandy, it's like all that stuff that got released. It was like, dear God. And nowhere did they say there's only 30 bottles available.
You can actually buy them beforehand and set it aside for you to show up
and pick up. And I mean, the thing is, it's no secret you're fans of Spirits of French, like as a lot of people are. I mean, I think just about everybody who watches this has had it and has enjoyed it, but they're not going to watch this, and I don't care. But it's like, don't be stupid about your posts. I mean, don't be stupid, okay? Just don't be stupid about it. It's like people drive a distance to go and get your stuff because that's what they have to do to get your stuff. Mm-hmm. Don't be a dumbass.
And when you were mentioning Iron Root, I know Robert was probably our first distillery guest. We had Jeff on first, and I think he came on second. And even back then, it was the variety of things you had at that point was, holy shit. Like each 5, so you're going 5, 6. Okay, you haven't pulled out one that I've disliked at this point. And now it's just getting richer and denser, and there's a few more play barrels that are always fun and neat to see going in different directions. So, yeah. So. All right. So, I guess it's my distillery of the year. So, couple ones were already mentioned that I like. I'm going to go over them again, though. Edelbrand is one. I guess I'll mention, like you said, and everyone else said, that they did have a mess with what they put out. They probably have 5 brandies and 3 beer. I'm going to call them beer distillates. And I'm not a fan of beer or most of the distillates most of the time, but each and every one of them, very good, clean runs on it. I think is the way for me, it's to describe Edelbrand as it's clean. You get favors, but it's the rest of it's clean. There's no muck. There's no anything else. It's just clean flavor. So they were in the running for it. This year I had actually some more Dry Fly, which surprised me. I hadn't had a lot from them before. I liked a couple, like 3 or 4 of the malts I had. Obviously I picked one here, but they had a couple other releases. One was a bourbon had like a birthday cake feel to me earlier in the year, and a couple other things where I was like, oh, there's some interesting stuff going on here that I'm I hadn't really paid attention to before. So that was neat to see them kind of pull my attention a bit. This year I got to have a lot of Alan's other releases. I didn't get to have Morning Glory, Kashi, Lost Lake, other things. I did have the Hindostan Falls. I had all those this year. Having those, it made this a very difficult decision because I didn't have all those a different year. So that factored in quite a bit with this because I actually got to have a big plethora again. And that goes in different years with different companies. So also Mitch, I was going to say MB Rolling for me because I had a few more releases from them this year that, like I said, each and every one I was really happy with. So I was going to say that doesn't happen with everywhere. And then also on my list here was Wollersheim, just because for me they had done Rise before that I thought I liked. When I say okay, good, but not like great, like wow. I really liked. I think it was number 2 on the list, and I also like number 3 on the list in that yeast project. I liked what they did with that. I thought that was a very neat branching out, a really good project. And there's a part there with some of that you might be able to run in different directions with just the 2 yeasts, and maybe pick a different finishing barrel for each one, even if you wanted to, just because there were different factors playing at that. And like you said, Mitch, they're both versions now. They have a bourbon and a brandy canned old fashioned now because some people were upset. So that when you get towards the Kohn brandies where they have the bottled and bond and then the 7-year-old, I really liked the lineup that they had this year. I was very pleased with that overall. Once again, one of those ones where I didn't really have a big miss on anything I was having from them. And so actually for me this year, I'm going to be going back to Spirits of French Lick because I had not had all of those other releases. The Morning Glory, I really liked. There were a couple of things on here that were, right underneath where stuff was, and all put together, it was a really impressive list. So for me, it's going to be Alan Bishop that wins Distiller of the Year. But there was this, like you said, you mentioned Chris, and that should be on here too. Oh God, there's a plethora of people that are putting out a no miss setup, and that is something I didn't know if I was going to be getting to, because when we first started, there might have been 2 or 3 people that we had. Mike was like, okay, well, we had, there was some fault along the line, and that's just the process of learning how to distill, right? As long as you keep going in the right direction, but there's more places that are starting to hit everything. And you guys both mentioned Toledo. Good bourbon, good rum, good gin, good lineup all the way across. So there were a lot of them out there that were really, really neat this year. But like I said, I hadn't tried some of the other ones, so that lineup was really neat, and I like the Hindostan Falls because of
it's so good.
Yeah, I was gonna say it had some fantastic flavors to it.
So I feel like Kevin had that show a while back about all hits, no skips, and all of the distilleries we mentioned, all hits, no skips. Yeah. Everything they make is good.
It's really, and there's ones that it's like, oh, should I include them too? Yeah, well, basically I could put 50 distilleries on here, and but I had to go with what are the ones that I went back to more than others, and then anyway, that's where I went. So anyway,
all right, there's the sorry, The 66% kicked in there for a second. I felt it there for just a titch.
Which one's that?
My malt. It's coming through with this creme brulee in the second half now with bananas Foster and some other. Sorry, I got lost for a second.
Lost in the mall.
The best way possible. All right, we are down to one last award. It is the Whiskey of the Year. It's the one that we absolutely thought was the best when we had it. You could sit down with it again and again, and it had everything you wanted it to have. So this is a big one. I didn't do too many honorable mentions in this one because, like I said, I kind of elevated one that I had from a different list. So mine's relatively short because some of the other things that I mentioned should obviously be tingling right underneath mine. All right, well, I was going to say, I'll go first. And I'm just going to give my one that I really liked. Okay. And then for Whiskey of the Year for me, it was OCD number 5 Premium. I loved that whiskey. The caramel, it wasn't even caramel. It was like a molasses note that was great. The berry flavors on it held on through the finish. It was really well put together, and I was a fan. I could drink that anytime. I'd be absolutely happy. And on another note, having to do with that whiskey, and I think even that release, I give Dave credit for, I believe that's the one where he gave everyone a chance who had supported him to buy a bottle beforehand, before it went out. And that I thought was an incredible gesture to people who had supported you, because he reached out to us and several other people to give them an opportunity beforehand to maybe purchase one before it went to the public, and at a slightly more reasonable price because you had been supporting him in the past in Glens Creek. So I thought that was a very stand-up move, especially what he was doing with the just the fans in general with them. I thought that was great. Because there's not many places that's going to give you that opportunity, because he was asking the general public about, everyone has seen the rise in prices for what some people are getting. And he's like, well, I thought that we could go higher. We almost should by the way things are going, but he tested his audience to see where he thought things were at and where they were at. And there's not enough people that ask the people buying your product those questions.
Yeah.
That was fantastic, because I think he got wonderful feedback from it, and honest feedback that was usable. That a lot of these, I'll say, firms try to get you information. A lot of it's BS that you get slotted back. I think something like that got you much more usable, much more proper information out of doing it that way for where you should aim your company. So kudos to Glens Creek, David, and that OCD 5 Premium, because it was delicious. So I'm going to punt now. What do you
Mitch, go ahead.
So every whiskey I mentioned was my honorable mention. My winner was the Westport Whiskey and Wine Bluegrass Toasted Oak Single Barrel. I don't know what it is, but they nailed it. It has the earthy notes I want. It has the caramel notes I want. It's got vanilla. It's got the guaiacol. It's got the smokiness. You add water to it, and that blue corn starts to come through. Everything about it just, for me, nails it. And to quote one Mr. Kevin, while we were there, every moment they spend distilling something else is a mistake. Because that's how good it is.
I like their blue corn, though, too.
So that is so their single barrel is a blue corn.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, they had them put that in a toasted barrel for them.
Okay, so then that makes me feel much better because I'm like, just their normal blue corn makes me very happy.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I would agree.
The blue corn right off the still will make you very happy.
I didn't get to try that yet. I'm really excited about it.
I don't think that tour guide understood how serious we were being.
I thought I was going to witness Kevin commit a crime.
I thought we were all going to not witness that.
Oh yeah, nobody saw nothing. I'm sorry, you have a full bottle?
We're missing 2 liters. What happened?
It was a full bottle.
That bottle could have come back if he had let us hold on to that for a little bit longer. It would not have come back full. Like it would have just. Hey, wasn't there like a lot more in here? Nope.
Yeah, it drank substantially below the proof, and was very flavorful for 160 or thereabouts. What it was.
I love the thereabouts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what it is. It's the only single barrel I've ever bought 4 bottles of. That's how much I enjoyed it. Now that being said, there have been single barrels I've wanted to buy 4 bottles of and haven't because they either sold out too quickly or I didn't have the money.
Has the price still stayed or dropped down at Westport?
So they do Friday flashes, and so pretty much every Friday now it goes on sale.
Okay.
Very nice. I like the Friday flash sale.
Pro tip.
Yeah. Market.
I mean, it was worth full price, but when it went on sale, it was like, okay, I don't know how much longer this is going to last, and this is my favorite whiskey of the year. I want to be being able to drink this for a long time. Stock it.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's awesome.
I got an Omar single malt that's like, you know what? I dig this.
That's really cool. All right, so that is our whiskey of the year. But
I haven't given you mine yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No. I haven't.
Damn it! All right.
So, along all those, everything you guys mentioned, 100. I agree with. I don't disagree with anyone's selections on anything. And I put in mine. I'll put all the ones that I had in mine, and that was really hard to go back and forth with them all. But I had the Deerhammer Progeny, the Hindostan, the Glens Creek OCD 5 Premium, that ASW Toasted, and the Iron Root Harbinger 23A. I put in mine for whiskey of the year, and the thing, and the Single Cask Nation Virginia. But the thing about mine is like, okay, my whiskey of the year. What do I want? What do I want it to say to me? And mine was, I want to say wow whenever I get to try it. And so I went through, and I mean, it was work, but I was trying to make, it's like, okay, I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing, but it kept coming back to this one. And then when I actually originally didn't have it in there, then it's like, all right, I really should put it in there. And I put it in there, and I was just like, okay, I just keep coming back to this one. And it's actually the same one you mentioned, Pat, that OCD 5 Premium Single Barrel. And Dave Meyer, when he had it, he said, guys, we have a honey barrel, and I need your opinion. What do we do about this one? And he wasn't kidding. It's a freaking honey barrel. I mean, every single time that I've had it, and I have shared it. I think I've shared it more than I've had it, because I was like making sure, okay, here, share it out, make sure people get to try this sucker, because it is unique. But every time I open it, and it comes across, and you're just like, that's it. I mean, it just jumps right out on the nose, and it jumps out on the palate, and it just has all those notes you said, that fruity, warm butterscotch. Good Lord. I mean, but it just keeps jumping out, and the finish on it, everything about it's just like,
rich too.
Every time it's like, wow. Yeah, it's rich. It is. I mean, appearance wise, it's freaking black. It's just, but he's, it's and they acknowledge it's a honey barrel now. And I was messaging him back and forth not too long ago, and he's like, "So, what did you think of that?" I'm like, "It's really freaking good, dude. I mean, I know you'd make more of this if you could, but it is, it's going to get shared with a lot of other stuff." And it went in the advent calendars that I sent out. I did an advent calendar. I do one every year for the group of friends of mine, and this year was only single barrels. And everybody said the same thing when they got to that one. That everyone, it was just like, it was a variation of holy shit and wow, and it was just really, it's like, I left it out of the lineup and I thought, okay, yeah, because I know I really like it. And it put in there, and every single time, it's just like, I know it's coming. It's like, it's like when I'm growing up and I knew my dad was coming home driving his 70 Dodge Challenger that was built for the drag strip. I knew when he was coming home before he was anywhere near the house. The same thing. This is just like that. I know it's in this glass near me because I can smell it. It's just coming off of there. It's very strong, very bold. And everything is on my list. I absolutely that Deerhammer Progeny is great. And Dawson, love it. That ASW, the Iron Root, love all that stuff. But this one, it's how would we say it's I don't know if bold is the word. It's assertive. It's like it's like back in the 70s seeing what was his name, Rip Taylor, come walking into a room. It's just like, well, yeah.
It's I thought this same with it. It just had a unique pull and twist this year that stood out. Every time
very, very, yes, bold and flashy, and but also classy. They really great flavors, but it's like all the flavors and just cranked up.
Yeah, it was for me. It was a surprise off of the nose. The berries on the inside were a surprise that they were as bold as they were. The very and the fruit flavor, because there was definitely like a date kind of fig on the nose, and it pulled through, but then all of a sudden the other fruits opened up on the inside off of that, almost like there was like a jam when you hit like a second layer.
It's a glass of dessert. I mean, it is straight up dessert.
All right, we got two more things. We're going to clear house, but before we do that and tell everyone about next week again, I want everyone to grab a little glass, because last week where we're going over stuff that happened in the year, I kind of left something out because I also wanted to make sure we acknowledge it, because as we're going through whiskey of the year and everything that tastes good, there was someone we lost this year that I think solely enjoyed whiskey and everything about it. And I just wanted to take a moment to recognize that we lost Patrick this year, and to be honest, how much he meant to the whiskey community as a whole, because he is a good person. And that is more than anything. Whenever you met him, the dude was always in a good mood, and he put forth what was best about whiskey because he was a good person. So he's one of the people I met that to be honest, I hope I can kind of, I don't say live up to, but kind of fill into that section, because there's parts of a day where I'm out at events where I'm, maybe I've had enough and might need my own me time for a second. And he never seemed to be that person. He always seemed to be the person finding someone that was by themselves and bringing them into the fold and trying to make someone else's day better. So with the cheers of the whiskey of the year for me, I just wanted to honor his passing. So to Patrick.
Yep.
Patrick.
And also other people, as we mentioned this before, but also not forget Rick Brenner, who was super solid dude. Totally. I mean,
the nickname "The Legend" was well deserved.
Very, very well deserved. And guy gets a hold of me out of the blue and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to French Lick. Do you want me to pick up stuff for you? And you can just drive to St. Louis instead of driving all the way there." Never met him before, only been on some online tastings or whatever. It was super nice of him to do. He did it. My only regret from that whole thing was when I got my bottles, and that was the Iconoclast, actually, is what he was picking up. I asked Jolie if she would write on all the boxes cocaine, and she didn't do it. And I said, "Oh, come on, you got to write cocaine on there because it's going to happen." Anyway, she didn't want to do it. That's my only regret. But anyway, hooked up with Rick in the parking lot and stuff, and guy was super nice and just got dealt, as they say, got dealt a shitty hand. That was also unfair, but yeah, as you said, lived up to the name, the legend, and yeah, super nice dude.
Yeah, not only in the whiskey world, but just once again a good person. That's just seeing exemplified through whiskey is fantastic. So yeah, I'll give a little sip to him as well because he deserved that. All right. Now, before we leave this show, I want to remind you that next Monday we are having Richard and James on from Island Getaway Rum, which after tomorrow, I think we're all going to want to get the hell away from wherever we are. I know I will, at least by Wednesday. And that is a hell of a lineup. That's 5 different rums. And one's like an orange. I saw a coconut. There's a variety in here. So not only are we going to be tasting them, maybe a little bit of quizzing on where we should go, because I feel like some of these have cocktail written all over them as well too. You know what I mean? So I think there's going to be a great way to taste through some of this and see where some of it's going to go. It's a young company, but I had a little sip, and I think they're going to do just well. I think they're going to do just fine with what's going on. So we look forward to talking to them next week. Make sure you stop in. That should be a fantastic show. Other than that, I think we're just about done to get out of here. But I got to pour some before we leave. I can't leave on nothing. So I need to have a little sip of something here. I'm going to go with a little Maltster's Reserve.
I was going to say, also looking forward to this coming year because it should be opening pretty soon. And their show is going to be starting here. If it hasn't started now, it's going to start. Whiskey Crusaders and them opening the Whiskey Castle. I'm looking forward to making a trek down there to go and see those guys. But a whiskey place for whiskey fans, and they're going to have a good selection because it's going to be and it won't just be whiskey, but it's going to be a ridiculous selection of stuff.
No, and that's just Matt's one of the people that knows people, so I think and not just like people in the industry, he knows the right people in distribution and the right people. And
the three of them, between him, Will, and Sarah, all being Psalms, and just they know what they're talking about. So to go down there for your education or for your tasting or whatever you're going to do, that's going to be a really good stop, along with hitting distilleries and that, down there too.
And Will's a wine sommelier, if I'm not correct, as well. So I was going to say he adds that neat depth of the appreciation for finishing in that area that some other people might miss. So I think it's going to be a great experience. And we hope Sarah heals up quick. She wasn't feeling good this past week, so hope you heal up quick.
Emily heals up quick.
Huh?
She's keeping it at bay. She has
I got very.
I think it's afraid of her personally.
I mean, if she
as it should be
herself enough cask strength whiskey, I think she'll be fine.
All right, here I got it.
Guess though.
Emily knows what she's doing.
Let's hope so. She does. She's been the best French ever.
Yeah. But I do want to say, for anyone that has stuck around this long, and especially listening to my dumb ass, I do want to thank for all the stuff we've gotten to try this year. I've been very thankful for all these things that we've gotten to try. And I know that I'm forgetting other spirits because I had a much longer list when because I listed everything that I had tried. There are just so many single barrel stuff, so many other things we got to try. But we really got there. Me personally, I know I got to try some fantastic whiskeys this year, and even the other spirits. I mean, some of the gins and things like that. And they were great. I mean, everything was great. It was a good year for being able to try new things. I'm hoping to get to do it again next year, but I feel very fortunate to be able to try the stuff we got to try. And, everything was a winner, truly, as far as I'm concerned, because it was all good. I mean, everything that I wrote down on my final 5th sheet of paper, that everything through, everything was great. Everything was great. It's just you had to choose something. It's just anyway.
No, I agree. So, no, it was great to actually go through that. I knew it was going to be a little bit iffy. We're doing Northwest tonight. Very, very cool. So stop over there and see them this evening. But those are our lists. We might have a short post about it later on just to kind of condense them for everyone to see what we picked at different points. But thank you, everyone, for stopping along. And congratulations to all the winners. We greatly appreciate all the hard work that anyone on the list did because they are all producing great stuff. So
yes.
Remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.